Good morning. It's great to be with all of you today to celebrate the exceptional class of 2020. The fact that so many graduates are joining us a year after their degrees were conferred is a profound testament to your commitment. Thank you. In 2020, this class parted ways at a time we will all remember, the onset of COVID-19. You faced uncertainties that no Vanderbilt students had ever faced before, and you did so with fortitude, resilience, and compassion. This weekend is a celebration of your achievement. We are launching the festivities with remarks from several speakers, including Ambassador Caroline Kennedy, our esteemed guest of honor. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Provost Susan Arventi, who you will hear from in a moment. As you know, she led the university through some of our most uncertain days in the spring of 2020 and has continued to rise to the challenges of the past year with clarity, foresight, and an unwavering commitment to Vanderbilt, much like our graduates. She's a trailblazer in her own right, and I'm honored that she will direct today's program. To our graduates, thank you again for being here and for making your alma mater proud. Without further delay, I welcome our Interfaith student speakers.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rachel Miles, the former president of the Vanderbilt Interfaith Council. One of the main missions of our organization and many of those on campus was to celebrate not only the diversity of Vanderbilt students, but to encourage true pluralism in our little world. Not simply living with and around each other, but to assist in true community with neighbors and friends. Speaking for myself, these communities are some of the only things that have tethered me to a sense of stability throughout the tumult of the past year. We've all tried desperately to maintain a semblance of family and social support in these times of intense isolation, and for many of us, our faith communities have been a large part of that. I have sorely missed my sense of interfaith community on this campus, seeing the people around me actively strive to grow in their love for one another and cultivate a more compassionate world together. I feel exceedingly grateful to be reunited with many of these colleagues and share the stage with them today as we precede Ambassador Caroline Kennedy, celebrating one another in a way that once seemed unlikely, if not impossible. I am honored to have served alongside these student and now alumni activists who have worked tirelessly for these causes throughout their time at Vanderbilt and beyond. Please welcome Lakshmi Shartov of the Hindu tradition, David Blum of the Jewish tradition, Zain Kara of the Islam tradition, and Ariana Nemox of the Christian tradition.
Namaste, everyone. My name is Charita Veerapaneni, and I'm the former president of the Hindu student organization, Vandi Karma. As we venture into this next step of our lives, I want to share some words that stood by me as I created my home at Vanderbilt, ones which I will carry on to the next step of my life as well. In the preface to his translation of the Bhagavad Gita, scholar Eknath Easwaran writes, "The law of karma states unequivocally that though we cannot see the connections, we can be sure that everything that happens to us, good and bad, originated once in something we did or thought. We ourselves are responsible for what happens to us, whether or not we can understand how. It follows that we can change what happens to us by changing ourselves. We can take our destiny into our own hands. That is my wish for each of us. Know that you are free to create your path and work towards any goal you set as you proceed forward in life. Thank you all, congratulations, and namaste."
Hello, fellow graduates. My name is David Blum, and I had the honor to serve as the Hillel president my senior year at Vanderbilt. In the Jewish book of ethics, Pirkei Avot, it is written, "Who is rich? One who finds happiness in what he or she has." This past year has tested us all as we suffered with not only health issues, but also loss of experiences. I myself missed out on plans to travel, see old friends, and of course, graduate on time. But for every experience lost, a new opportunity arose. I did not travel, but I got to explore new places right out my back door. I did not see many of my old friends, but I spent invaluable time with my family that does not happen often enough. And most of all, this year gave me patience and a better sense of self that will make future experiences even better. So let's not think about all that we lost in 2020, but rather let's be happy with all that we had. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you. My name is Zain Kara, and I was the president of the Muslim Student Association at Vanderbilt. This past year has been full of struggles and hardships, and we should take time to be grateful that we are now here together again for the graduation that we were supposed to have last year. On this day, I want to reflect on some words from the Quran which we Muslims believe is the direct word of God himself. In it, God says, if you try to count God's blessings, you could never take them all in. He is truly most forgiving and most merciful. Despite all the challenges and struggles that we face in our lives, we have countless things that we can be thankful for around us. Our families, our friends, our communities, our education at Vanderbilt itself, and many more. My reminder is for us all to keep gratitude on the top of our minds as we reflect on our lives and the blessings that we have been given. And this will empower us to face life with confidence and a positive outlook. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ariana Nimox, and I was an active member of University Catholic and Sigma Phi Lambda. And today I'll be sharing a reflection from my Christian faith tradition. St. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, chapter 5, verses 3 through 5, writes, "We also celebrate in our tribulations, knowing that tribulation brings about perseverance, and perseverance, proven character, and proven character, hope." I thought life after surviving Vandy would be a piece of cake. Boy, was I wrong. This past year, I felt like I had been tossed out into the middle of the Pacific Ocean with nothing but a life vest. I've been asking God where he's been. He was there, and he is there holding our hands through it all. He worked through the podcasts I found of young Christian women talking about life. He worked through my Bible study of college girlfriends. He even worked through people posting on LinkedIn how they got rejected by a job. I promise you, this past year's struggles and those that are still to come can only make us stronger and build in us perseverance, character, and hope. God bless our class of 2020.
Congratulations, class of 2020. It's such an incredible honor and pleasure to be with you all on this special day, a celebration that's been a year in the making. My name is Tim Warnock, and I am your Vanderbilt Alumni Association president. 37 years ago, I was sitting exactly where you are, thinking about how my time at Vanderbilt flew by, the lifelong friendships I made, and the phenomenal education I received as part of this campus community. What I didn't have to think about as I transitioned from Vanderbilt into life as an alum is a global pandemic that has affected lives in unprecedented ways. I'm so proud of the tremendous resilience, creativity, and support for one another that your class has shown in the year that you've been part of our alumni community. I hope that you've realized that wherever you go, whatever you do, Vanderbilt is for life. You'll always be connected to this amazing global Commodore family and network who stand ready to help you make connections and grow your career, help you belong in your new city, and help you celebrate your life successes. On behalf of the more than 145,000 alumni around the world, we are so glad you're part of the Vanderbilt Alumni Association, where you're all automatic members for life. There are never dues to pay, and everything is open to everyone. While you may have been challenged in ways you never expected over this past year, trust me, you are prepared. The world needs you, and you are well on your way to an amazing life journey. Your time at Vanderbilt helped you hone your skills, acquire knowledge, and develop talents that will enable you to thrive in our dynamic world. Your Vanderbilt Network, a worldwide alumni community in over 140 countries, stands ready to help you too. Wherever you go, there are likely to be alums who are already there, ready to welcome you. Vanderbilt is for life. So, be sure to connect with the alumni in your current city, especially in Vanderbilt chapters. Keep your email and address details current on VU Connect so that you receive Vanderbilt invites and news in your city. Remember, if the only address Vanderbilt has for you is your parents' home in Dallas, you will not get information about local alumni events while you're working in New York City. Join the Vanderbilt LinkedIn group to grow your professional network. You are all experts at keeping in touch via social media, so please make the effort to keep in touch. You get from your network what you put into your efforts, so we hope you'll step up and engage with the university and fellow alumni, and volunteer to help current and future students succeed as you have. Every class of graduating students stands on the shoulders of all the generous alumni who have come before. Generous alumni support enrich your experience here, from Opportunity Vanderbilt and Experience Vanderbilt to the endowed chairs for outstanding faculty, to the Commons and residential colleges. Alumni support is truly invaluable. Through your support of the Senior Class Fund and class gifts, you acknowledged the importance of paying it forward and giving back to pave the way for future Commodores. Keep up the great work. And finally, while commencement seems like a conclusion, it's really just your beginning of life after Vanderbilt. You're ready for it, and remember, you're not alone as you conquer and prevail in your next challenges and adventures. Vanderbilt is indeed for life. I will now turn over the program to Christina Rentschler to present the Senior Class Fund for Class of 2020.
Good morning. My name is Christy Rentschler, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Class of 2020 Senior Class Fund overall chair. The Senior Class Fund is a unique organization that provides students with the opportunity to give back to the areas of Vanderbilt that mean the most to them. From the schools and colleges, departments, student organizations, athletics, and so much more. Despite the unprecedented circumstances of the coronavirus pandemic, I am proud to announce that the Class of 2020 was able to secure a 63% giving participation rate during our senior year. Although our time on campus was cut short, these generous gifts from 953 of us have helped to build our unique legacy that will last far beyond our years at Vanderbilt. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who made a gift, large or small. We are helping to impact future generations of Commodores who will follow in our footsteps. Additionally, I want to express my gratitude to our amazing officers for their tireless efforts in leading the charge. Jade Clark, Evan Coffey, Alexandra Connor, Wills Meek, Tejas Subramanian, Katie Sykes, Jessica Thomas, Grant Wasick, and Tim Zaklama. To our advisors, Dominique Marmino and Veronica Vincente Ford, thank you so much for your endless support and dedication, particularly throughout these challenging times. Finally, I want to thank alumni Jay and McCartney Wilkins for generously donating an additional $100,000 to Experience Vanderbilt in honor of the Class of 2020, as a tribute to our class's resilience and tenacity throughout the pandemic. Although this chapter of our unconventional college experience officially concludes as we cross the stage tomorrow, nearly a full year later, we can each take pride that we have left our mark on Vanderbilt University. Congratulations and anchor down.
Hey everybody, my name is Joey Blake and I graduated from the law school last May. When I applied to Vanderbilt Law School back in 2017, I honestly did not know much about the school, or Nashville for that matter. However, one thing that I kept hearing about was the collegial atmosphere at the university and the law school. Soon after I stepped foot on campus, I learned that to be 100% true. Like the rest of you, I made some of the greatest friends and memories during my time at Vanderbilt. And it's my belief that the lessons that I learned inside and outside of the classroom helped to mold me into a better person today. And it obviously helped me to become an attorney. It is for these reasons that the end of our 2020 school year was so disappointing for all of us. As graduate and professional school students, we place a special importance on our advanced degrees. We worked very hard in order to reach these milestones. The weeks leading up to commencement are supposed to be filled with celebration with one another, our family, and our friends. So to not be able to spend this time with our loved ones to celebrate these accomplishments was a huge loss, especially since it was due to a pandemic that was obviously out of our control. We've all had to learn how to deal with a lot this past year. For one thing, we've all had to adjust to the new normal of everyday life. Also, as new graduates, we've entered the workplace at a particularly challenging time. Lastly, many of us have experienced significant loss as a result of the COVID pandemic. In short, this past year has forced all of us to confront significant changes within a very short window of time. Although we did not have control over the changes that we've encountered during this past year, we do have control over how we choose to move forward. Expected and unexpected changes can help to open us up to new perspectives and lessons about life. As a person who leans on my faith, I believe that God has allowed me to confront certain challenges and obstacles during this past year in order to help me to grow. Now, of course, dealing with change is easier said than done. But as author Alan Watts said, the best way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. So with that being said, I encourage all of us to learn from the changes that we've encountered during this past year. Grow with it. If possible, embrace it. But most importantly, do not let it stop you. In conclusion, I want to say congratulations to the class of 2020. We've all worked very hard to accomplish these achievements and the milestones that have brought us here today. Although this weekend won't make up for what was supposed to be last year, it's still a great chance for us to reunite with one another and celebrate one another. Our time at Vanderbilt has equipped us with knowledge, which is invaluable. But in my opinion, the greatest thing that it brought us are the people that made our time here special, the people that we can lean on in times of challenge and hardship, and that we can celebrate with in times of joy. So with that being said, class of 2020, congratulations. Be there for one another, check on one another, and continue to inspire one another. Thank you.
Hello to the class of 2020, families and friends of Nashville this weekend, and to anyone who is joining us online from your corner of the world. Thank you for being a part of this commencement weekend, and thank you to Vanderbilt for welcoming us all back for this belated celebration. My name is Frances Burton, and I served as the student body president for the 2019-2020 school year. And while I have since entered the workforce and parted ways with student leadership, I came out of retirement to share a few opening words with you all to kick off this weekend. It's obvious to everyone that this commencement weekend is different. Not in a bad way, it just undoubtedly is. I feel like most commencements are about saying goodbye and getting sent off into that real world we all talked about through college. But we already did that. We said goodbye or tried as hard as we could to do so last March. We spent the last year of our lives doing something different than we had the previous 4. And even in the most challenging of circumstances, we moved on. So this commencement weekend doesn't feel like it's about saying goodbye. It doesn't feel like we are getting sent off or starting a new chapter. To me, it feels much more like a hello. A welcome back. And it's good to see you and a celebration of so many wonderful reunions with best friends and with the people we just miss waving hi to and Rand, with the city of Nashville and with this campus that we all spent quite a bit of time on. And yes, I know at the end of this weekend, we will say goodbye once again to each other and to Vanderbilt. But I also know that these goodbyes will feel different than they did a year ago. They will be said with more hope and perhaps feel more like a see you soon than a goodbye. And before we get there, most of all, right now, I'm just so grateful for the chance to get another hello. So with that, I will end my remarks how I started. Hello to the class of 2020, families and friends of Nashville this weekend, and to anyone who's joining us online from your corner of the world. Thank you for being a part of this commencement. Thank you to Vanderbilt for welcoming us all back. And I hope that everyone has the happiest of hellos this weekend. And with that, I will now turn the program over to Susan Wente, Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. Provost Wente was the first woman to lead Vanderbilt as both Provost and as Interim Chancellor last year. And earlier this year, she was named to the 14th President of Wake Forest University, becoming the first woman to lead that institution. A renowned scientist and respected academic leader, she will now say a few words and introduce our distinguished speaker for today. Provost Wente, over to you.
Thank you, Frances, for the lovely introduction. Good morning and welcome, class of 2020 graduates, families, and the Vanderbilt community. I am Susan Wente, Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. This event is part of an annual tradition at Vanderbilt that we are honoring in a unique and historic way today. At this time last year, your class officially graduated, but without the traditional ceremony honoring your proud achievements and well-deserved rites of passage. You completed your final classes through online platforms, and you said goodbye to one another and to your professors from afar. And then you entered the next phases of your lives during a time of tremendous uncertainty. Now, as promised, we've come together again to celebrate not only your graduation, but your remarkable courage, character, and commitment, both to our Vanderbilt community and to the world of humanity at large. I am immensely proud to welcome you today and to also welcome our distinguished speaker, Ambassador Caroline Kennedy, who provides an exemplary model of these qualities in her own life and leadership. Caroline Kennedy is an attorney and best-selling author and editor of 11 books on law, civics, and poetry. She worked for 10 years with the New York City Department of Education, tirelessly advocating for the fundamental educational opportunities that all students in our nation deserve. From 2013 to 2017, she served as the U.S. Ambassador to Japan. As the first woman to hold this position, she initiated trailblazing advances, such as the U.S. military's return of nearly 10,000 acres on Okinawa to the Japanese government and President Obama's historic visit to Hiroshima. And she tirelessly championed the role of Japanese women in business and politics. She continuously devotes her life to the public good, serving on numerous civic and cultural boards such as the U.S.-Japan Foundation, the Premier Imperiale, the Carnegie Corporation, and the International Rescue Committee. She is the honorary president of the John F. Kennedy Library Foundation and regularly acts as a spokesperson for her family's profound role in defining history, from the moon landing to the fight for racial justice. It is my great honor to welcome Ambassador Kennedy and to award her with the 2020 Nichols-Chancellor's Medal, which recognizes a person who has made extraordinary contributions to our society. It is awarded to those persons who define the 21st century and exemplify the best qualities of the human spirit. Our distinguished alumnus, Ed Nichols, and his wife, Janice Nichols, made this honor possible by creating and endowing the award in memory of Ed's parents, Edward Carmack Nichols and Lucile Hamby Nichols. I'd like to acknowledge their generosity in establishing this medal and the tribute it pays to the humanitarian heroes that dwell among us. On that note, please join me in welcoming Ambassador Caroline Kennedy.
Good morning, and thank you, Chancellor Diermeyer, distinguished faculty and guests, parents, and students. I wish we were all together in Nashville, but it's truly an honor to be part of Graduates Day. Thank you, Provost Wente, for that kind introduction and for all that you've done for science, for women, for students, and for Vanderbilt during your extraordinary career. And congratulations on assuming the presidency of Wake Forest. I'm so grateful to Ed and Janice Nichols for your extraordinary generosity and your commitment to increasing opportunities for service here at Vanderbilt that impact the entire world. It's an honor to receive the Nichols-Chancellor's Medal and be in the company of such inspiring honorees. Most of all, the recipients of the Nichols Humanitarian Fund scholarships, whose work is truly extraordinary. Congratulations to the students who have come through this difficult year, and to the parents who have been there supporting you, worrying about you, and cheering you on. You may feel that you missed out on some of the college experience you had hoped for, but I know that when you look back on this time, you will realize that you learned much more than you thought. You developed a resilience that you would not have acquired in an easier time, and that you've grown and changed in ways that will serve you well as you navigate your life's voyage. You're fortunate to have been part of this community that put your health and well-being at the heart of its COVID response and trusted you with the responsibility of keeping each other safe. Vanderbilt has been a model for the nation, and you've been here at a time when this institution played a leading role in solving the greatest global health challenge of our time. I hope you go into the world with a sense of pride in that historic accomplishment, and that your own personal commitment to improve the lives of others in the tradition of this great university. Few people's lives unfold as they imagined, and it's the way we respond to the unexpected that defines us over time. In my life, the most difficult events were a shock and the most rewarding experiences were those I never imagined. In addition to the support of my family, the most important element in handling the highs and lows was the confidence I gained from my education. No matter how you've grown up and what blessings or hardships you've received, what you have learned here in the classrooms and from other students and faculty is all your own. People often say they wish they could go back to college and do it all over again. I am not one of those people. I didn't like college. I felt intimidated and thought everyone else was having fun and being smart. But as I progressed, the lessons I learned there unfolded over time, and I realized just how prepared for life I had become. Upon graduating, you'll enter a world that's very different from the one you expected. Our nation's suffering has been immense and continuing, our dislocation and divisions profound. But you need to look no farther than this campus to see that there are solutions through science and Dolly Parton, that not everything has changed. After all, Vanderbilt baseball is still the greatest team ever, and some things are even better than they were before. Sarah Fuller scored in a Power 5 game and went on to introduce the first female vice president of the United States at her inauguration. So now the question becomes, what to do with the rest of your life? The future may look uncertain, and there's no doubt that the problems are monumental, but you're the best educated generation in history. You've got more information, more skills, more choices than most people who have ever lived. And if we've learned one thing from this pandemic, it's that we're all in this together. Although the impact may be more or less severe depending on our age, race, wealth, or geography, we are all affected by this deadly disease, and none of us can return to an active, fully engaged life until we all do. And that isn't just true for the fortunate, it's true for the entire world, since the virus knows no boundaries. So even though we're told that the world is different now than it's ever been, and that the old lessons don't apply, reconnecting to our timeless ideals and learning from those who went before, I think can help us make the right decisions. 55 years ago, in 1963, my father spoke at Vanderbilt. It was 3 years after successful sit-ins had peacefully desegregated Nashville's downtown lunch counters, and yet Vanderbilt had expelled the master strategist, James Lawson, from its divinity school. My father spoke in the middle of a season of violent resistance to desegregation, and a few weeks before he proposed landmark civil rights legislation. He came to talk not about our rights, but about our responsibilities as citizens in a democracy, in particular about the special obligations of an educated citizen. At a time when education was the front line of the battle for civil rights, he said that the educated citizen knew that knowledge was power and therefore had an obligation to support learning by all citizens at all levels. In words that are applicable today, he said, the nation, indeed the whole world, has watched recent events in the United States with alarm and dismay. In these moments of tragic disorder, a special burden rests on the educated men and women of this country to reject the temptations of prejudice and violence and reaffirm the values of freedom and law on which our free society depends. But the part that resonates the most with me harkens back to his inaugural address, in which he challenged each of us to give back to our country. When here at Vanderbilt, President Kennedy said, "The educated citizen has an obligation to serve the public. He may be a civil servant or a senator, a candidate or a campaign worker, a winner or a loser, but he must be a participant and not a spectator." He went on, "You will find the pressures greater than the pay. You may endure more public attacks than support, but you will have the unequaled satisfaction of knowing that your character and talent are contributing to the direction and success of this free society." The moment when we're called to active citizenship will be different for each of us. For some, it will happen gradually without their realizing it. For others, it will be their life's work. And for many, it will be woven into the way we live or part of what we do. At Vanderbilt, you're fortunate to have had the path laid out before you. The Nichols-Chancellor's Humanitarian Award is just one example of the many ways in which the values of this community and the opportunities offered here have allowed you to learn and experiment so that you can be effective in this work. The goal is to find a way of serving that's rewarding to you personally and that helps to solve a larger social problem. The best example I know of is my father's sister Eunice, who was inspired by the struggles of their intellectually disabled sister Rosemary to fight discrimination, increase research, and establish services for those with intellectual disabilities and their families, including here at the Vanderbilt Kennedy Center. She founded the Special Olympics, which has grown into a worldwide organization with 3 million athletes, and the groundbreaking research on early childhood interventions done here at Vanderbilt by Dr. Susan Gray led directly to the establishment of the Head Start program by the federal government. For me, 9/11 was the moment when I became an active citizen. That shocking tragedy brought New Yorkers together in a way that had never experienced before. Everyone knew someone whose life had been changed. You couldn't walk down a street in New York City without passing a makeshift memorial to those who had died, to the first responders who gave their lives to protect the rest of us. New Yorkers realized that we were one community in ways that we hadn't before, and we asked ourselves what we could do to give back to our city. I decided to volunteer in the New York City public school system because I believe that education is the most important long-term issue facing our country. It's a national security issue, an economic issue, a civil rights issue, a women's issue, and a moral issue, because as adults, we have no more important responsibility than how we raise our children. Too many children are not getting the skills and training they need to succeed in the 21st century, and too many of them are Black and brown. They're our neighbors. In a few years, they will be our teachers, our leaders, our first responders. We need to show them that we are here for them, that we believe in them, and that we will do what it takes for them to succeed. Because those of us who are lucky enough to attend a school like Vanderbilt know that when someone believes in you, there's nothing you can't do. Education will also determine the future of this country because school is where we become Americans, where our society passes on the values of citizenship. And America cannot remain the indispensable nation unless each one of us feels a responsibility to keep our country true to its promises. Partly that's because America is the only country founded on an ideal. We don't have a king or a common religion or ancient monuments to tie us together. We have a set of promises made in the Declaration of Independence, promises that are only words unless every generation upholds their responsibility to keep them. Generations have sacrificed to pass these values down to us, and now it's our chance to create a more perfect union. I gained a new perspective on America when I served overseas as President Obama's ambassador to Japan. I met people from across Asia who still see America as a beacon of hope and opportunity despite our problems. In today's globalized society, even citizens of the most powerful nation on earth can't solve problems alone. Problems that affect us locally, like climate change or immigration, need global solutions. We need to be able to work across cultures and across differences to tackle those challenges. That takes a willingness to listen, to learn from others, and to do the hard work of partnership. As our world becomes smaller and more connected, reconciling our differences is more important than ever. It's something else I learned from my father's example. Bear with me while I go back in time for a moment. As many of you know, on a dark August night in 1943 in August, patrolling in the South Pacific, my father's PT boat was sliced in half by a Japanese destroyer, Amagiri. PT-109 burst into flames, killing 2 crew members. My father towed 1 injured man and guided the 11 surviving crew 4 miles through shark-infested waters to an island where they hid from Japanese patrols. After 5 days, he spotted some local islanders in the canoe and gave them a message carved on a coconut shell. They delivered it to Australian coast watchers on a nearby island who arranged rescue. The PT-109 story was made into a hit song in a Hollywood movie, but it didn't end on that island. And what many people don't know is that after the war, throughout the 1950s, my father corresponded with the Japanese destroyer captain. Like my father, Captain Hanami returned home from the war and entered public service. In fact, he became mayor of his town at Fukushima. One of the most moving moments I experienced as ambassador was meeting his widow, who showed me one of her treasured possessions, a photo from President Kennedy, which he had signed to her husband with the inscription, to Captain Hanami, late enemy, present friend. My father's correspondence with Captain Hanami was just one of countless individual acts of reconciliation that built the U.S.-Japan alliance into the strongest in the world. It illustrates what happens when we reach out to others in search of our common humanity. And it helped me advocate for one of the most significant events in U.S.-Japan history, President Obama's visit to Hiroshima in 2016. Although in hindsight the visit seems inevitable, it was high risk and high stakes for both leaders. After all, the idea had been floated before, and it had been turned down for 70 years. In both countries, some senior officials remained opposed, and the public was divided. President Obama was criticized from the left and the right, and it was in the middle of a presidential campaign which amplified the political risk. In Japan, the idea of a presidential visit had always been predicated on the demand for an apology from America, which was a non-starter for the U.S. The Prime Minister knew if the visit didn't go well, he could lose his position and support for the U.S.-Japan alliance. Despite the close relationship between our two countries, the wounds of war can still appear visible and raw. Both sides were tense as we headed for Hiroshima. The Japanese were concerned about what the president was going to say and whether his remarks would do justice to the magnitude of what had happened there. The White House refused to share a draft. I was glad no one knew that President Obama was still working on his speech as Air Force One touched down. After laying a wreath at the eternal flame, the president stepped back to speak. He asked the audience to focus not just on the atomic bomb, but on the larger meaning of Hiroshima, one event in a global war that claimed the lives of 60 million people, an event which changed forever the way we think about our humanity. He said Hiroshima's significance lay in its ability to remind us that mankind has both the power to create and destroy, and its power to start a moral revolution. He urged us to see one another not as enemies, but as members of one human family who all love their children, who want peace instead of war, who want a future in which leaders choose hope instead of fear. He ended with the words I saw him write on Air Force One. The previous draft had described that future as one we can choose, one in which Hiroshima and Nagasaki are known not as the dawn of atomic warfare, but as its end. But the president changed it to read, a future we can choose, a future in which Hiroshima and Nagasaki are known not as the dawn of atomic warfare, but as the start of our own moral awakening. His change places the responsibility for the future on each one of us. A few months later, Prime Minister Abe became the first Japanese leader to offer prayers at the USS Arizona Memorial at Pearl Harbor. And in these iconic moments, I saw the power of principled leadership to renew our faith in one another and set an example for a world in conflict. These gestures of reconciliation may have taken 70 years to occur, but they show the world that healing is possible and strength comes from the hard work of understanding and partnership. Representing America abroad taught me firsthand what we're known and admired for. It's not our military might, but our ideals. Not what we demand of others, but what we give, how we help, how we serve. What my father and Captain Hanami understood and the President and Prime Minister demonstrated, and what so many of you live every day in big and small ways, is a willingness to bridge divides, even when it's not popular. We aren't all presidents acting on a historic scale, but we can use this example to help inform our own choices. We can ask ourselves what problems we want to solve and who we need to work with to make that happen. These examples teach us that reconciliation is a process, a way of solving problems. They wouldn't have taken place if not for the countless acts of individual kindness, courage, sacrifice, and trust that built an alliance strong enough for those to happen. Over the years, citizens created a pathway that leaders could follow. And that's the role of active citizens, to see a better future and inspire others to help create it. Each small step allows us to move forward together so that over time we can look back and see how much progress we've made. And today, in our divided country, that's more important than ever. And it's just as true here in Vanderbilt as it is in international relations. After all, James Lawson returned to teach here in 2006 and left his papers to this university. The past years have taught us what lasts, what ultimately leads to real change, is when people seek to overcome past differences, transform understanding into service and active citizenship, and a commitment to work together and for one another. So anchors away, it's time to set sail. I wish you all fair winds and following seas. Congratulations and have a great graduation.
Thank you, Ambassador Kennedy. Your words and your leadership are an inspiration, and we are so glad that you were able to join us for our rescheduled event after this challenging year and to speak with us today. To the class of 2020, may I suggest that you are also each ambassadors in your own ways. You carry this honorary ambassador title as it relates to your Vanderbilt education, and with it, the power you have to continuously change the world for the better, both in these unique times and for the rest of your lives. I hope you'll seize opportunities to be a force for positive change, and that you will remain connected with your Vanderbilt family and build new connections within our global community. I hope you enjoy the rest of this day, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you.